Good evening, guys. It's Jose. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. And I want to introduce something because no one knows this about me, okay? Okay, no one knows this about me. I think I've actually talked about it a few times, actually. If you're wondering, no, I don't think you're wondering, actually. But you probably wouldn't know this about me, but I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, okay? I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh very, very competitively in my early teens, and I actually found this the other day, which is my old deck in Yu-Gi-Oh before I quit, because basically I'd quit for like 3 months or so. I'm not sure why. I think I was playing. No, I wasn't playing WoW. I was playing RuneScape back in those days. And yeah, I've got my old Yu-Gi-Oh deck here. So basically, like with everyone being hyped about the cards, even got my sleeves in it as well. I'm actually surprised there's not so much stuff on it. So I basically used to play a very, very aggressive Fiend deck. So I think this is like during the ban list, and like I pretty much at this point, I did not want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, okay? Because basically they were banning like not half my cards. They're banning about like a few staples, and then basically the next set basically released a new Fiend type, which meant the old Fiends were useless. Like Yu-Gi-Oh has a habit of doing this where the old cards are absolute junk. So I found them, and I just wanted to show you a few things as well. So I basically played a Fiend deck. So basically I played Fiend Beatdown. So like I have my main one being Great Majuba Gazette. Like he was just my beat stick when I needed a big Garner field. And I got my Cyber Jars. If you guys remember Cyber Jar used to be the most OP thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was banned at one stage. I'm not sure if it's banned anymore, but basically gave you field control and like potential like field advantage as well, potentially as well. Then you had Sangan, used to search for like all your creatures with it as well. To be fair though, Sangan was only really good for a Fiend deck because he's a Fiend. To be honest, like any attack that you wanted wasn't below 1,500. Then you got Dimension Fusion. This was like the core of the Fiend deck. In fact, I actually put in a few Strike Ninjas into this deck as well, purely for Dimension Fusion to get everyone out. And then you got Dark Necrosphere, which is what your deck was built around. Necrosphere was probably one of the most powerful cards in a Fiend deck, mainly because if she dies, you can control someone else. And there's actually a Torment article, which I'll link with this video, where basically one of the guys comments that, I don't know, he doesn't comment about my Necrosphere play, but he forgets, but I just suicided my Necrosphere into his Blackluster Soldier on the beginning and took control of it and killed him with it. And I didn't have any Blackluster Soldier on the beginning or Chaos Emperor Dragon, but this guy who I was versed in, the journalist who wrote about the article, literally like talked about like how he got like Blackluster Soldier on the beginning to see how much he could destroy people with it. I'm sitting there going like, I just enjoyed using against him. Then you got Wabokus. These used to be in the starter deck. Like these became super, super expensive when they banned, what did they ban? I think it was Negate Attack or Mirror Force. These became super, super expensive because Wabokus were the only one that could stop attacks. Then you got Dark Ruler Hard Dares, which is another main guy in the deck as well. And the biggest issue with Dark Ruler Hard Dares is he could be special summoned from the graveyard, and he gave all your Fiends, like, they negate all effects that he destroys, so you can negate Cyber Jar, Fiber Jar, and whatnot. The problem was with Dark Ruler Hard Dares is he could not be summoned from the graveyard, so when he dies, he's dead, unless you Dimension Fusion him, of course. Then we got Magician of Faith, basically get a magic card back from the graveyard, use this to get Regekis and stuff like that, Dark Holes back, but, they all got banned. For some reason, I keep Scapegoat in my deck. Scapegoat is actually really, really good if you just need to make sure you don't die before you get other stuff out. Then you got this. This was emergency compulsory device. Since they banned a lot of removal. Emergency compulsory device was actually really, really good to get people stuff back to your hand. Then the Snatch Steel, which is the original like Change of Heart and stuff like that. Well, a weaker version of Change of Heart. They gave 1,000 life points back to everyone else, but you kept the card. And the worst thing about this one as well is that if you got Mystical Space Typhoon, you lose the monster goes back to the other person's control. Then we got more good Gazettes. I have 2 of those in my deck. You get Pot of Greed. This got banned pretty early on as well. Like they started banning a lot of these cards where you could draw more cards if they had no detriment. But they kept Graceful Strategy though. This is Magical Cylinder, probably one of my favorite cards. I've actually beaten someone with this as well because they juked that monster up to like have 8,000 attack, and then I just Magical Cylinder back it. It basically reflects the attack back to the person. Here's Graceful Charity. Graceful Charity was actually in Joey's deck, I believe. Like Joey's starter deck. You could not get it from a... no, it's actually Pegasus starter deck. You could actually never get it from the actual sets. You have to actually buy the Pegasus starter set to get Graceful Charity. There's Dark Hole. Basically, Dark Hole's like Regeki, but like both sides of the fields get destroyed. Eventually, they banned Dark Hole because Dark Hole was too OP according to their methods as well, despite you risk a tempo. Next one's Jinzo. Everyone knows who Jinzo is by this point. Jinzo was the biggest staple. They've never actually banned Jinzo, funnily enough. Jinzo negates all traps. He's actually a pretty powerful one-drop. So you just have to have one sacrifice to get Jinzo in the field. There's also a magic one called Spell Canceller. But essentially what you did with all these cards is you combo Dark Ruler Hades and Jinzo, and they can only really knock you out with magic cards. Here's Arcane Soldier. Arcane Soldier was the first Fiend type that has 1900 attack points. Like Fiend types used to have to play, I think it's Bistro Butcher. It had 1800 attack, but it healed the opponent every time I was successful attacking the life points, something like that. And there's another 1800 attack monster as well as a Fiend. Like, there wasn't really many strong Fiend cards, like, at the start. And I think Arcane Soldier was one of them. I think in Magician's Force, they gave out a Giant Orc, which is here. Giant Orc is basically like a cheap man's Goblin attack force. Has 2,200 attack and turns to defense mode. And has 0 defense, of course. Then you got Creature Swap. The person who wrote the article also wrote about this because they creature swapped my Strike Ninja for his Air Knight to kill him, which is actually pretty good. Next one is Goblin King. Goblin King became a pretty big staple for Fiend decks as well because he got 1,000 attack damage for every Fiend type, I believe. Yeah, he did. So basically, and also as well, he can't be attacked if there's another Fiend monster in the field. So basically, you can make this beefy boy up to like a 3k monster and just absolutely start like dredging everyone in the field. And also, not to mention, you got under Gravity Bind because he's a 1-star. And that's how important he was. Ring of Destruction, if you've watched Yugioh, you know Carb uses this quite a bit. Ring of Destruction is actually really good removal. And also, even though like the life point damage can be a bit, it's absolutely massive. You know, Ring of Destruction can be used as monster removal. Next up, you got United We Stand, typical for a Fiend beatdown deck to have, you know, cards, make their cards stronger. If you swarm the field as well, United We Stand is really good. You get 800 attack and defense points for every single monster on the field, so you can make, you know, 4,000 equip. Mystical Space Typhoon, they actually restricted and semi-restricted this, mainly because Mystical Space Typhoon was actually quite strong as a removal. However, there's been a big discussion with Imperial Order back in the day about, you know, this happening. Wabakus, as I said, I think everyone tried to get their hands on Wabaku. Dust Tornadoes, these became super popular when Mystical Space Typhoon got restricted to 1. And then there's Heavy Storm as well. And then this eventually got banned as well. Like, a lot of these removal cards got banned. Exiled Force, like, made a return when they started removing, like, Regeki and stuff like that. Basically, Exiled Force, like, basically a suicide version. Then you got Torrential Tribute as well. I'm actually a bit surprised that this wasn't banned. This one is still unlimited, given that Torrential Tribute is, like, if anyone summons a card, you can specially destroy all monsters on the field. Which is, like, obscenely OP, but they kept Jinzo. Premature Burial. Then we got Tribe Infecting Virus. This actually got banned for a bit as well, because you can discard one card and destroy all types. And this was back in the day when people played same Archetype monsters, so you basically can just annihilate a person's deck just with this on the field. Another Giant Orc. Call of the Haunted. Basically a big staple back in the day. You could use this with Jinzo, and Jinzo would negate it, so even if you destroy this, Jinzo would stay on the field. There's Goblin King as well. I think I've got a lot of, you know, doubles. There's a Dust Tornado as well. I've actually got a lot of those. There's Sinister Serpent. Sinister Serpent was basically used to prevent a Yatta lock, since every time it died, it would come back to your hand. So if you wanted... Back in the day, it was a card called Yatta Garusu, and basically, essentially, it was a Yatta lock. Okay, so basically, you couldn't draw if Yatta attacked you directly, but Sinister Serpent had enough attack points to stop Yatta from Yatta locking you. Then there's Necrophilia again. He's covering fire. I was trying to make a deck around this to like just bait people into it, but it increased the person's attack points by how much of another monster was. So you could actually like buff up one monster, just basically make a 1-turn kill. Mage Power is just like United We Stand, but it's for magic and spell cards. Can get up to 2,500. This one is actually most one of the OP cards as well, which is Injection Fairy Lily. You can basically pay 2,000 life points to boost it by 3,000. And if you wanted to like bust open gates, stuff like that, Injection Fairy Lily was probably your gal. And also, it could be Gravity Bound either. There's a few more doubles. There's Giant Trunade. So basically, since Harpy's Feather Duster got banned, use Giant Trunade to get all the cards back to your hand. It didn't destroy them, though. You could use Card Destruction to get rid of like all the magic and traps, but it wasn't really useful at all. I think I've gone through all of them. I've gone through all of them now. But yeah, so pretty much like that was my deck, essentially. It wasn't really a strong deck because I had to like edit my deck so much because of all the ban lists. And the ban lists were ultimately frustrating, man. And that's why I quit Yu-Gi-Oh! In the end. But in the end, I actually did win a regional, I believe. Oh, no, I didn't win a regional. I think I came like 4th in it. Because I qualified for the Nationals. In the Nationals, I came like 35th or something like that. I couldn't really win the Nationals because the entire meta was hand control. Like, hand control was probably the most boring deck to play against. And wasn't too exciting to play with. Because you literally, like, all I did was I played hand control online, and it's basically like Delinquent Duo, Confiscation, Forceful Sentry, and then basically just essentially like making sure the hand's like one card and just beating Yada. It was very, very boring. However, you know, basically the Fiend deck was very exciting with Dimensional Fusion and stuff like that. In the end, I think I attended 2 Nationals. I think the last National I got like 72nd because I didn't really care. I ended up being like, I think it was usually if you have your third loss, you're generally eliminated. And I think when I came 35th, because I missed out the playoffs by, I think, 3 spots, I got like, I think it was 10 games, I think it was 7-3. funnily enough, had a forfeit win over the person who came third, and one of the Perth guys came second, and pretty much like both decks were exactly the same. It was like hand control with Magical Scientist, and next to impossible to play against. I didn't really enjoy any of those decks as per se. Now, overall, like when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I've met a lot of people. One of the guys I know works at BT and actually called him for like some customer service. Actually pretty cool. And we went to nationals together as well. He played last turn. He was actually he played the last turn deck. He's actually quite cool. India and I started playing last turn because he played it, because last turn's a pretty exciting deck. And it also actually works kind of well with Fiend decks as well, because you can wipe the board to prepare our last turn. And you also, not to mention that you can, have Inspection, have Raw Revealing Light in a Fiend deck to prepare for last turn. And not to mention, like, Sangan to search for Jalkin and stuff like that. Basically, last turn, you basically search for Jalkin. Jalkin Spiritus doesn't allow your opponent to special summon a monster, and you win, since you're the only one with the monster in the field. Now, last but not least, I played Yu-Gi-Oh for quite a bit. That's why I know a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh, and if anyone talks to me about Yu-Gi-Oh, I know quite a bit about it. And yeah, enjoyed the anime as well, because that's what got me into Yu-Gi-Oh in the first place. And then being my friends got basically me into more of it. A lot of my friends did watch me duel back in the days, and they knew I was actually really, really good at it. They were actually watching me play it. And I think I've gotten to the tournaments via the markets I used to go to. Like, they got me to the tournaments. They actually had their own shop as well, other than the markets. And yeah, I haven't seen them in quite a while, actually. So, kind of trip down memory lane. They were going into another card game, as far as I know, back in the day, because I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And started going to the markets because I got more into RuneScape, I believe, in StarCraft 2. Or StarCraft, I'm not sure. But anyway, it was a good fun back in the day. It's actually something to do, go into the markets every day. I actually remember buying a Magician's Force box for my younger brother, and we got like free tribe-infecting viruses, and we actually sold them for like $50 a pop. And we didn't get Dark Magician Girl, we got Diffusion Wave Motion. If we got Dark Magician Girl, I would have gone for $200, because people were asking for Dark Magician Girl for collector's items, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience with Yu-Gi-Oh! And hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys are looking for my deck as well. And yeah, I'll put the article below, because I think it's still up. And yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace out.